Hi, I'm Lauren.
I'm Addie,
And I'm Morgan.
and we did our project over Cinderella. Okay, the first Cinderella began in Egypt. It was an independent work developed enough to connect to the Cinderella we know. It was written by Herodotus and adapted by Greek historian Strabo. It was believed to be based off a real girl named Rhodopis. Rhodopis was kidnapped by pirates and put into slavery. Although, like the Cinderella we know today, Rhodopis' master was very compassionate, but the other slaves weren't, so animals were her only friends. Through the fate chosen by the gods, Rhodopis ends up with the pharaoh after a shoe mix-up.
The Cinderella Disney movie is based off of Charles Perrault's version from 1697 called Cinderella. It's almost the exact same as the one we know, as her parents died and she's left a maid for her stepmom and stepsisters. He was also the one who introduced the pumpkin, the fairy godmother, and the glass slipper. And he also started the idea of Cinder because she was always covered in ash from the fire. The original story didn't have Lucifer the cat or music, and the only really big difference is that the stepsisters apologized to her at the end and also lived happily ever after from marrying other lords.
So another version that was written by Cinderella was Chinese. It was written in the Tang Dynasty from 618 to 907. It was known as a little bit more violent than the other ones. Her name was Ye Hsin. I think that's how we pronounce it. And it's actually known as one of the oldest known literary renderings with the intervention of supernatural helper on her behalf. So that's like the earliest, or the oldest known one. And so pretty much it's a little bit more violent, and her stepmother killed a fish who was her friend, and that was her only friend, and she killed it and served it to her for dinner. And then we later find out that that fish was a symbol of prosperity in the end when she marries the king. And then also at the very end, the stepsisters and the stepmother were crushed to death by stones. So a little bit more violent version, I would say.
This version of Cinderella was written in Italy in 1634. It is a little more violent and is known as the Cat Cinderella. Zazzola is Cinderella until she is renamed Cenerentola in the story. Zazzola is advised to murder her cruel stepmother, which she probably does, but there is a twist when the person who asked her to commit this crime becomes the new stepmother and moves into her house with her 6 daughters. They quickly send her away to the kitchen, just like in the original Cinderella we know that they make her a maid. Zazzola escapes this, although when she charms the prince and is discovered by her shoe.
The German version, which is also named Kinder und Hausmärchen, was written in 1812 by Jacob and William Grimm. The German name for the Cinderella was Aschenputtel, or Ashful. It's the same story as the one we know. Her parents die and she's left at the hands of her stepfamily. But in this one, her father gave her a twig and she planted it next to her mother's grave, and she comes and visits it and gets her faith with her dead mother. The tree and the birds surrounding it made her dress to help get her to the ball. And whenever she does go to the ball, she falls in love with the prince, but she runs away and leaves her shoe behind. In this version, her stepsisters cut off their toes and heels to try to fit the shoe, but the prince still doesn't fall for it. So once he finds Aschenputtel, they ran off together, and the birds pecked the stepsisters' eyes out.
So this version of Cinderella is from the mid-1800s. It's a version that's not really for children. It's a little bit dark as well as the other ones. She's known as Vasila, and she's sent away in hopes to die. And she's sent to a witch named Baba Yaga, and so that she'll die. And the cat there is supposed to scratch her eyes out, but the cat never succeeded. And when that happened, she got away and she found her dad with the help of a magic doll. And it's supposedly, in the story, it says, "Anne becomes more beautiful with every passing day." So that's what that is.
Okay, this version, the Native American one, is called the Hidden One, and is a little different from the original because it is more based off of morals than hatred. And in this version, Strongwind, a warrior, uses his ability to become invisible to see if women who want to pursue him will lie. He comes across 3 sisters and asks all of them, "Can you see me?" And even though all of them are unable to, the 2 oldest still say they can. The youngest one, though, does not lie and says she can't. The youngest one is also bullied by her two older sisters and is seen as lesser. But in the end, Strongwind ends up marrying her, and unlike all the other Cinderella stories, they live happily ever after.
In the United States version that we all know, it came out in 1950, and it was based solely off the ideas of Perrault edition, except for in this one they added songs, and they also added the fairy godmother. They used talking animals and stole the idea from Sleeping Beauty and Snow White to try to make it more kid-friendly. And in this one, it was kind of multiple purpose based, and in the movie, they used Cinderella as a guide for fashion and culture after World War II. Her dress was based off the designs by Dior, and it was used as an icon to try to motivate people to buy stuff to boost the economy. So, and even though it was used as entertainment, it was also used to help the U.S.
This version of Cinderella doesn't pertain too much to the actual true story with the prince and the shoe. In the story, there is no Princess Shoe, and so she's a young girl, and she's forced by her stepmother to go into a dark forest. And in the forest, she finds treasure, and she uses it for good, and she helps peoples and others, and she uses it for charity and just helps other people out.
Cinderella was originally an Oriental tale, and Orientalism refers to the geography and culture of large parts of Asia and North America, and plus some of what we think of as Eastern Europe. And that Cinderella can be proven to be an Oriental tale because it is in Egypt, which is in North Africa, and it shows that culture with the Egyptian slavery and fate by gods at the end of the story. But over the years, it has kind of transformed into a cautionary tale because it lost its lineage, like slavery turned into just being a maid, and then Pharaoh's is now stepmother, so it doesn't have all that culture.
In a cautionary tale, it contains a bad event which places a warning for the readers. In Cinderella, the two cautionary tales are one when Cinderella was abandoned, and also when her stepsisters didn't get a happily ever after. The basic cautionary warning in Cinderella is that you should stay patient and kind during hard times because it gets better. You should never stoop to someone's low, and you should also take the high road. Cinderella remained positive and kind while everyone else around her was mistreating her, and it shows that in reality, when you stay kind and you stay true, you end up on top. Yes, it shows that true love prevails, but it also shows that true kindness prevails. It's hard to fall in love with fake affection motivated by greed. It's easy to flock to someone who's true to themselves because they'll always be true to you.
So besides the name being another Cinderella story, we see a lot of aspects of the Grimm brothers' version of Cinderella in the movie of Hilary Duff, another Cinderella story. So it's more geared towards teenage audiences. We see Cinderella, the story throughout the movie, where she's nobody at her school. She wants to fall in love with, or she doesn't want to, but she falls in love with a football player who's known as the prince in the story. And then we see that they potentially could fall in love, but some mishaps went on and they couldn't do that. And then also we see some people working against her, such as the evil stepmother, the sisters, or something like that. So it just shows that the movie relates more to the Grimm brothers version because Hilary Duff's faith and hope was motivated by her father, and that's also in the story also.
For our second adaptation, this one is also called Another Cinderella Story, but it was made in 2008. The main character was Selena Gomez, and it is more to relate to our modern day audience. The setting for this one is also in a high school, and Cinderella is also a loner trying to fall in love with like the most popular person, but instead of a football player, this popular person is actually a pop star. And just like in the original, when they meet at a ball, they meet at a masquerade dance. So Selena Gomez is wearing a mask, and like the pop star can't tell who she is. And in this one, there's no talking animals, but instead she has a best friend that is always kind of with her and helping her out through everything. And Selena is used as a maid for her stepmother and stepsisters, just like the original. And at the end of the movie, instead of marrying the prince, she gets away from her stepfamily by getting into Juilliard for her dancing that she did with the pop star.
And this is our bibliography.